Hey everybody, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com, back with some more Pittsburgh Steelers recap and analysis of a busy start to the free agency period for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ton of moves made, some not. Let's talk about it all. Before we start, if you guys could like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Would really appreciate that. Going to try to go through as many moves as possible. I'm going to put quarterback aside. Not going to touch on it really at all in this video because as of this recording on Thursday evening, it's still unsettled. Who knows what will happen there? Hard to react until we have some sort of finality. Although they did add Mason Rudolph. We'll talk about that in a second. It's messy. It's less than ideal. We're all aware of that. We'll discuss it at a later point. Let's talk about, though, the additions the team has made so far, the guys they've lost, and the overall other concrete roster moves. Starting with the DK Metcalf trade, which we kind of almost forget about because so much has happened since, and so much air has been consumed by the quarterback conversation of Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. But this team traded for DK Metcalf in what I would say is the most aggressive and biggest splash trade in Steelers history. Not only to make the move for Metcalf in itself, giving up a second-round pick, but then to go ahead and pay him $30 million per year on a 5-year, $150 million contract that makes him the highest-paid non-quarterback in Pittsburgh Steelers history, at least until TJ Watt gets his extension later this year. So that is a radical move for a sight unseen player in the sense of not somebody that had played for Pittsburgh before. Obviously, it's team familiar with his skill set. And I mean, you have to love this trade, the aggressiveness that Omar Khan showed. There was certainly a market for Metcalf. He was the top guy. Omar Khan talked about needing to add playmakers, receiver priority, both certainly true. And you get that with DK Metcalf. Again, I understand the question is going to be about who's going to throw him the football, what's the quarterback outlook look like, and those are all fair. But this is not just a one-year rental. This is a 5-year commitment. And so, who the quarterback of 2025 will be has a little less bearing on whether or not you like or support or the impact of what Metcalf can bring to Pittsburgh. And so for 2025, assuming the Steelers keep George Pickens, and I think they will, we'll see how Pickens reacts to it all, but I don't think Pittsburgh has a desire to trade him away. You got Pickens on one side, Metcalf on the other, two of the best vertical deep ball receivers in the NFL. Just that alone, the nature in which defenses will have to change their approach and game plan, see a lot more too high. You're going to see teams play conservatively, play off. Maybe you blitz less because you don't want to have to put your corners on islands in those situations. And so there's a lot of impact you'll have for your offense. You're going to have 7-man boxes. The run game should be easier. Of course, Pittsburgh still has to run the ball effectively, and the offensive line must develop, but just on paper, it really has an impact in terms of the structure you're going to see. Metcalf himself, he wins in a different way than Pickens. Metcalf, to me, is more of the true speedster that runs past corners. He's a little less of the jump ball, go up there and high point it, even though his size is certainly unique. Pickens plays a little more power forward. Metcalf plays a little more track star, but both are super effective. I think Metcalf wins underneath. I think the amount of explosiveness and burst he has at his breakpoint, really unique for his frame. Obviously, his resume is his resume, and that's going to make any quarterback, no matter who it is, look a little bit better. He's an aggressive blocker, and that's important in this offense. And so, I mean, it's a big splash, obviously, and what a way back on Sunday evening to kick off, the unofficial start to free agency for Pittsburgh. From there, the team has made a couple other signings. We'll go over to the defense now with Malik Harrison, the inside linebacker. That is going to be, in a lot of ways, the Landon Roberts replacement. I think 1-to-1 inside linebacker, 2 inside linebacker. There's a downgrade there. I think Roberts was more physical, more of a tone setter, more of a thumper, but they're cut from a similar cloth. Harrison's game is run defense. It won't be coverage. It won't be sideline to sideline. He's going to play in base packages, the Steelers 3-4 on early downs. That's going to be his potential path to seeing work in a presumed 3-man rotation at inside linebacker with Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen. Now, I think if Wilson develops his second year, if his run defense improves, that's one thing that must get better, that Harrison may really kind of get squeezed out of this rotation, and they're going to just stick with Wilson and Queen as the main two guys. So we'll just have to see how that looks. But the good news is Harrison has a ton of special teams value. And so I think what the intent of this addition is, out of the gate, Harrison's playing call it 15, 20 defensive snaps per game in your base 3-4, and then able to contribute a ton as a 4 or 5 phase guy on special teams, something Roberts really couldn't do. He played a little bit on punt coverage team, but he was not going to give you the quantity or quality of snaps that Harrison has. Since Harrison was drafted in 2020, he has the 7th most special team snaps in football, led the Ravens in special teams tackles during his 5 years in Baltimore. So you're going to get at least that, and that's a good at least fallback position should Harrison not have much, if any, of a defensive role. A couple of corners came in Darius Slay and Brandon Echols. Slay, the concern is he's 34. How much does he have left? Probably only 1 year left in the NFL. He signed a 1-year deal, $10 million, fully guaranteed. But I watched his tape extensively. This guy can still play. And so, yes, you never know where that cliff is at. And Father Time always wins out at some point. But to me, Slay's still athletic. Certainly is football savvy. His FBI football intelligence really shines through, takes good angles, and probably makes up for that lack of speed compared to where he was in his 20s. He's physical. He's a tackler. There's a great stick and forced fumble on Josh Jacobs in week 1, who was certainly not a small running back. So I was really impressed by his tape overall. There is some questions about the long speed. Some of the vertical throws can get to him. So I think you have to play him in more off-man cover 3, deep third, rather than press man trying to roll him up. But he's obviously going to be a mentor to a pretty young cornerback room, presumably with Joey Porter Jr. and Corey Trace Jr. both going into their 3rd season. So I like this pickup. There was certainly a bit of disappointment because it was a great cornerback class. There were some grade A names younger out there that Pittsburgh could have gotten for the long haul. But looking back, were they going to really spend 3 contracts worth $20 million plus on a quarterback, on Metcalf, and a corner? That was really probably unrealistic. So I do get them kind of going to the fallback option of Slay. There has been this revolving door of veteran corners they brought in, from Levi Wallace to Patrick Peterson to Dante Jackson, trading for him last year, and now Slay. And at some point, you got to find someone who sticks long term, and Slay's not going to be that guy. 34, 1-year contract, but for the here and now, I think it's a solid pickup. It's certainly better than what Patrick Peterson was a couple years back, 2 years ago. I think Slay has a lot more life in his legs and more gas in that tank than Peterson did when he came in. Echols, we'll see what the role is, but he's younger. There's some inside-outside versatility. This past year with the Jets, Echols played more on the outside. In 2023, he played more in the slot, and so there's a bit of positional help that he can give for a team that still needs some help at outside corner, and certainly I would say at slot corner on the outside, you at least have Slay, Porter, Trice when healthy, the slot position, it's Beanie Bishop and not a whole lot else right now. Echols, coming out of Kentucky, really good athlete, tested fantastic, and so that kind of shows up on tape. He's going to get bodied by some of these big receivers. He's not a big guy, and that kind of shows on tape. George Pickens certainly gave him fits last year, including, I think it was Pickens that caught Russell Wilson's first touchdown on a fade ball in the end zone, and Pickens got Echols at a different point in the game for a 44-yard catch, boxing him out down the left sideline. So there's going to be some limitations there. Our Josh Carney broke down Echols, and his tackling is really kind of the big issue. There's 1-2, and he can get the job done, but a lot of misses, a lot of going low. And so some of the metrics on Echols aren't great there, which makes you a little questionable about, can this guy play in the slot and fit the run, given the demand it has on, being able to play in traffic and make run stuffs and blitz and tackles for losses, all that kind of stuff. So, we'll see where he's at. But you have Porter, you have Slay, you have Trice, who they like, but can you trust him to stay healthy? That's the question. If Echols is a top backup, then that's really good depth. If he's pressed into that starting role, things might get exposed. If he's a full-time slot guy, we'll see. Could Bishop maybe play more of a rundown slot role and Echols more in pass-down situations in the slot? That's possible, but it's good depth, and you always need good cornerback depth in this AFC. You're in the North with the Bengals and their weapons. They're keeping Higgins and Chase, and so you want to make sure you have some guys that can turn and run and play coverage. Kenneth Gainwell, the running back from Philadelphia, who Pittsburgh had interest in, coming out of Memphis in 2021. He's going to be a space player, and you can certainly see Pittsburgh, although this is a much lesser degree than DK Metcalf, but trying to find some juice, some potency for an offense that has been too stagnant, not creating enough big plays offensively. Now, Gainwell is probably more quick than fast. He's got almost 400 career touches, and his longest play from scrimmage is 32 yards. I think his longest run last year was 20 on 75 carries, despite playing in that really prolific Eagles offense. Not a ton of snaps, but still you thought maybe he would be able to bust off that big run or big catch occasionally, but he's a guy that can make guys miss in space. There's a chess piece aspect to him where he can move around, play running back, split out. You saw him against Pittsburgh, 3 catches for 40 yards, all on third down, all for conversions, making guys miss, and I think that certainly helped either get or reaffirm Gainwell on Pittsburgh's radar. It's a little more Cordell Patterson replacement. I certainly don't think this is going to preclude Pittsburgh from drafting a running back relatively early. We're talking 3rd, 4th round probably for that position, given they don't have that 2nd round pick that went to Seattle in the DK Metcalf trade. So this is more 3rd down. If Jaylen Warren has more of an early down role than the 3rd down role he often played in Pittsburgh, then Gainwell can help supplement that. Kick returns as well. Gainwell did kick returns last year for the Eagles. 18 attempts, had averaged 25 yards per return. Pittsburgh was the worst kick return team in average last year, so another element he can bring that the team was looking for with Patterson. Still on roster, but may not be for super long, or may not certainly have a good chance to make the 53 out of training camp if he gets that far. So, Gainwell was a niche signing, and again, they're gonna draft a running back probably 3rd, 4th round. They're bringing in a bunch of guys for visits. It's a really strong running back class. Gainwell signed just a 1-year deal for under $2 million, so the money's cheap. There is no real commitment there, but there is going to be a use. Can Arthur Smith effectively use him? That's going to be kind of the question. And then Mason Rudolph. Welcome back, Mason Rudolph, after a season in Tennessee. Rudolph is the first quarterback to sign. Again, I'm recording this Thursday evening. I have no idea when the next quarterback shoe will drop. Nobody does right now, so it may be outdated, but understand the perspective of the timeline of when I'm talking about this. I like this move. I have no problem with this move one bit. I don't think Pittsburgh wanted to sit on their hands forever and have to wait Rodgers out and then go try to find a backup quarterback. And even though Art Rooney talked about wanting to have his starter and his backup be similar stylistically, pocket passer with a pocket passer, or mobile quarterback starter, mobile quarterback backup, if you get Russ, if you get Rodgers, if you get probably, God forbid, Kirk Cousins, it's a similar type of quarterback. And so you can confidently sign Rudolph and probably assume your starter is going to be similar in terms of his playing style. So to me, Mason Rudolph, he's such a polarizing figure, and I really don't understand exactly why he is so controversial. Some people love him, some people hate him. I don't really get it, but Mason Rudolph is a capable, competent number 2 quarterback who can come off the bench or spot start and run your offense exactly how your OC wants him to run the offense. He showed that in 2023, coming off the bench, providing Pittsburgh's best quarterback play of that season, which was admittedly a low bar, but still, number 2 quarterback. That is a ceiling. That's always going to be, but that is fine. He's experienced. He's come off the bench. He started in games, and so you want a guy that's kind of had every experience possible where nothing's going to face him. Nothing will surprise him. Your quarterback gets hurt mid-game or leaves for a play. Rudolph jumps right on in. If he's got to start for a game, you're good with that on the fly. And so obviously he's familiar with the organization, even though the coaching staff has changed really quite a bit since he departed. New OC, new quarterbacks coach, etc. But still Mike Tomlin, still the same old Pittsburgh Steelers. So number 2 quarterback, I am more than okay with. As for the several free agents Pittsburgh has lost, there really aren't any shockers. Landon Roberts was the more surprising one where you thought, okay, that guy's going to come back. I think Pittsburgh should have brought him back. We don't know exact details of why that did not transpire. I think Pittsburgh wanted to get younger at the position. Roberts in his 30s. Maybe they predicted a fall off, and so they went younger on a 2-year deal worth $10 million for Malik Harrison. Najee Harris going to the Chargers is an awesome fit for him. It's a great place to go. Kind of predicted that would kind of be the type of team that would go after him. Harbaugh's physical-based offense, and to kind of get that bruising type of running back, he goes out west, which is where he's from California. And so the deal was really cheap. The running back market has really taken a hit this year because of that strong rookie running back class. And so all these guys are playing for cheap, and that's Najee's deal as well, but I think he'll have a really good season, maybe a career year in Los Angeles. The others, notable but not surprising, James Daniels going to the Dolphins. Happy for him getting a 3-year deal. Wasn't sure if he was going to have to wait, prove his health coming off the Achilles tear in week 4 of 2024, but he gets a 3-year deal. Didn't get the huge money that he otherwise would have received had he been healthy. The guard market's gotten crazy hot. He got $8 million per year, very similar contract to what he signed in Pittsburgh a couple years back, but he gets some security, and so hopefully he'll have a good year. Dan Moore Jr. just securing the bag. 4 years, $82 million. He's now the 6th highest paid left tackle in football. Certainly more than probably what he's worth, but that's what the market demands for pretty young offensive linemen with a bunch of experience at left tackle. So happy for him. He's worked really hard. He did get better throughout his career, but an awesome teammate. And so I'm personally happy for him. And even if you hate all that I just said there, you should love it because that's going to get Pittsburgh a really shiny comp pick for 2026, a 3rd rounder projected. Now, remember, these are comp pick values, so they can change based on playing time, based on who Pittsburgh signs. But if they were to sign either Russ or Rodgers, it's not going to impact the comp formula because Rodgers was cut, and Wilson would be a guy that you'd be bringing back, re-signing. So it's not going to be penalized in the comp formula. And so Pittsburgh, nothing is settled, but the way it's certainly tracking suggests Pittsburgh will have several compensatory selections in 2026. Maybe even the max of 4, a 3rd rounder for Moore, a 4th rounder for Fields, and potentially some other day 3 selections. So we won't know that with more clarity really until the 2025 season ends, but we'll see exactly what happens over the next couple of weeks and months for Pittsburgh to make any additional signings to really kind of settle in, but they have a good chance of having at least a 3rd and 4th round comp pick for 2026. Couple other just quick final notes. They cut defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi. Right move, unsurprising. Does create a hole at D-line for the Steelers. They've yet to really address it at all, and that is a little unnerving. But this D-line market was hot. Teams are paying for pass rush, never cheap. I don't think Pittsburgh wanted to have to overpay again after they, paid Metcalf all that money, and they got to get a quarterback in. And with how deep and strong this defensive line class is in the draft, it's just not worth going out there and paying crazy money for defensive line help. It's kind of like center last year where Pittsburgh released Mason Cole. They really had nothing there, and you saw all these centers get paid, and they got some decent deals. Cushenberry and Aaron Brewer. They tried to bring in a guy who was Mitch Morse, and he went to Jacksonville and retired after this year. Pittsburgh reportedly had interest in Javon Kinlaw from where he was at the Jets, and that didn't happen. He got too much money, and so it's kind of parallels there to say that they decided to kind of sit it out in free agency and then go draft in the 2nd round with Zach Frazier. I think they'll add a defensive lineman, some lower level type of guy. They may re-sign Loudermilk, they may bring in somebody else, but the draft is where they're going to really address defensive line, and right now looking pretty likely they will do so in the 1st round. So what is left for Pittsburgh to add? I think getting a veteran offensive lineman, a tackle, even a low-level guy is going to be important for that room. Some depth, some insurance, versatility, a mentor for young tackles in Broderick Jones entering a crucial 3rd season. Troy Fautanu as well, and what was a lost rookie year for him, unfortunately. Safety depth, man, they have no safety depth on this team right now behind Minkah Fitzpatrick and Deshaun Elliott. They have Killebrew, a special teamer. Case is a free agent. Don't have much interest in bringing him back. The market's really poor, so I'm not really sure what they're going to do there. Is that going to be like where they add someone to cut downs in August? Maybe, but safety depth is really, really thin right now, so I want to see what Pittsburgh does there. Those are kind of 2 spots sticking out to me that have yet to be touched that should be addressed, ideally with a veteran, but we'll see what happens. So those are my overall thoughts. Much will change. Maybe much has changed by the time you guys listen to this, but wanted to kind of share my initial thoughts after getting some lay of the land on free agency. Obviously, quarterback's going to be the big question mark, and I think Pittsburgh can certainly be criticized for how they've handled it all. They're really not holding much leverage right now as they wait on decisions and pieces to fall, but that's a whole nother video, a whole nother topic there. They've made some good signings. Metcalf, the trade obviously is huge, and again, I don't think we talk about that enough, as crazy as that sounds, because quarterback has taken all the air out of the room, but what a massive move that was. I like getting Slay. Rudolph, Gainwell has his value. Didn't love the Malik Harrison signing, but it's not going to make or break this team one bit, and the free agents they lost, there probably was some turnover needed for this organization coming off that 5-game losing streak to make some changes and really, in some ways, retool this roster. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you guys watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.